Today we're talking about Portal 2. And in this game you are Chell, you're the girl from the first one, and you're greeted by this robot guy. And he comes into your room and he says, "Hey, we gotta escape." And the whole place starts falling apart. You don't know what's going on. And so you jump out the window, out the door, and then this guy follows you, and then you end up in a room, and then this guy says, "Hey, catch me, we gotta get out of here." So he falls, you catch him, or you let him fall on the ground. Either way, you guys progress and move to the next room. This is where you find a thing called the portal gun. Now this portal gun allows you to open portals. You make an orange one, and then somewhere in the background you can make a blue one. And so you can go into one of them, and you come out the other side over here. So you go through some puzzles, and eventually you meet up with GLaDOS, which is big robot in control of the whole facility, and she's mad at you because you killed her, or you powered her off. And so she sends you down the chute, and you end up on the ground in this place, and you get up. So we progress, you start going through some puzzles, you start going through some portals, and then eventually before one of the next rooms, Wheatley comes back. Like, "Hey, still alive. I know how to get us out of here. Keep playing along, and then we'll escape into the next room." And eventually, you meet up with Wheatley, and then he does have a plan. And first, what you guys do, you disable these little robot turret guys, and you replace them with malfunctioning little turret guys, and so that they can't shoot you anymore, and they're not a threat. You then go with Wheatley, and he tells you, "Okay, there's a big gas chamber thing. This is neurotoxic gas. We gotta disable it somehow." And so he's trying to figure it out. And then you create a portal right here and a portal over here, and there's a laser going through this one. So the laser goes through here and then comes back out, and it cuts these cables, and then you put another one here and it cuts these cables, and then the neurotoxin is dead. But eventually you make it to the room with GLaDOS, and then she comes down, and then somehow she traps us in a box. And then she says, "Oh, you're about to die." So she brings out her little turrets. But little does she know, these turrets don't work no more. So the turrets just start exploding, and then the glass starts cracking. And we're not out yet. Also, Wheatley's not here because he got separated in a separate tube when we were coming down here in a different tube. But she brings out the Wheatley tube, and then the Wheatley tube, Wheatley comes out, cracks the glass, and then we are free. Now Wheatley's plan is, we put Wheatley in this little thing right here, and then this will replace GLaDOS as the main controller system. So we put Wheatley in, but then she has to consent. She has to say yes, but she doesn't. He says yes, he doesn't, which means we need to override the control somehow. So then we go, you do a quick puzzle, and then you press the button, and then that allows the override to happen. Wheatley becomes the new creator controller person, and then GLaDOS gets thrown away somewhere. But then it turns out GLaDOS actually turns into a potato, and as we're supposed to escape in this elevator, Wheatley says, "Hey, I am powerful. You're not escaping. You used me, you tricked me, which means now you stay here. Get in this elevator." And he sends us all the way down to the bottom. And we crash land, and Wheatley becomes evil. Now we wake up in this old spot, which eventually we start traveling through, and we see that it's the original Aperture scientist laboratory. And instead of having GLaDOS or Wheatley talk to us in the narration, we have this guy named Cave Johnson. He is actually the founder of Aperture Science. And so we make our way through more portals and more doors, and eventually we meet up with Potato GLaDOS, or Potato Wes. And so we help her, we carry GLaDOS, and then we start making our way through this Aperture Science place. And in this place we hear Cave Johnson talking about details and how this place came to be, and testing, and who's who, and an important name comes up, Carolyn. Carolyn was his wife, and she is supposed to be in charge when he dies, because this guy is dying. But as he's speaking, Potato GLaDOS says, "Wait, I know what he's saying. Why am I responding? Why is this familiar? What is going on?" So she starts having a crisis, and she She goes silent. She says, "Let me think." And so she goes quiet, and we continue exploring and figuring out how to get back to the top floor. Now, while this is happening, GLaDOS tells us that this place is not being taken care of properly, and she says that this whole place is going to explode. And so we need to hurry, get back to the top. But as we're going, we find ways to deal with AI, and a paradox is one way to fry an AI or something. So we're going to use a paradox on Wheatley up there when we get up there, and that will fry him enough so that we can get Potato back in charge and fix the whole facility. Now, eventually we find out that Cave Johnson and this company Aperture, they were finding out ways how to put the human brain into a robot. And so we know that Carolyn is actually GLaDOS, and that's why she has those joint memories with Carolyn, and she remembers who this Cave Johnson guy is. And I sort of think that Cave Johnson might indirectly be Wheatley, but probably not. It's got a different accent, so it's kind of a stretch, but maybe. But eventually we get back to this guy, and he's like, "Oh, you're still alive. That's crazy. Okay, now go do these tests." And so we have to do some more tests, just like we've been doing this whole game. And eventually we find out that there's a wearing off effect of how these AI respond to the tests. Both GLaDOS and Wheatley here, but Wheatley is not as refined. GLaDOS was able to deal with it, he can't, and he's getting angry. And so out of desperation, he's bringing out broken test chambers, smashing some together, creating ones that don't work, but we still manage to figure it out, and we go through the puzzles, all while this whole place is starting to explode and fall apart, and we gotta hurry up. And at some point, we finally figure out how to get out. We end up in this little floating thing, and we make it through, and we land on this platform, and we think we're safe. Not really, because then Wheatley comes out and he's like, "Oh, finally, I have you here." These giant spike traps are here pointed at us. He's got like 20 of them. But then we portal out over to some ledge over here that leads us to a catwalk in the back. Portal here, portal there, and we are safe and sound, and we run away from Wheatley. And these things do not kill us. We are good. Which, after more running and problem and puzzle solving, we finally make it back to the room with Wheatley. Now Wheatley has set up traps and stuff to kill us. He has shields going on, and he also has a bomb launcher over here. But GLaDOS, as we were heading over here, had the idea we're going to make 3 other dampening cores, and we're going to attach them to Wheatley, and we're going to begin the transfer process just like we did earlier. We're going to put GLaDOS in the thing, switching him over with Wheatley, but obviously he's not going to consent. So these cores are going to make him weak enough so that this change can happen. And so we fight him, he throws bombs at us, but we set up portals. The bomb shoots at him from this side. We set up a portal here from this side, and then one over here on this side. And we grab the cores, and then these little cores, one of them wants to go to space. He's the coolest one. These get implemented into Wheatley, and the switch is able to happen. So we put Potato OS, and GLaDOS is able to take control of the facility again. But during the fight, we shoot a portal onto the moon, and so there's a portal here and a portal there, and that is actually how we get Wheatley to get off of the thing. He falls into space, so he goes into space along with his other little dampening core guys, and the one that wanted to go space, he's finally happy. And so no, he's not here. GLaDOS is back in control, and she says, "Good job, you did it." And then she keeps her word, puts us on an elevator, and she sends us up onto the surface. And just like that, we exit the shed, and now we are a free person. No longer have to test. GLaDOS is down there. Wheatley is up here in space. And we get to frolic through the meadows. And happily ever after, we are no longer a test subject. We win. That is the story of Portal 2.